Is it too early? I don't know, man. That's up to you. Today in this video, I wanted to talk about ambition. Because when it comes to my favorite team, the Vancouver Canucks, Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford have been pretty ambitious with the way they've built this team, with the way they've used their draft picks. Very limited draft picks, by the way. They trade them away a lot nowadays, but they are usually traded away for a good purpose, whether that's Elias Lindholm or whomever else. Either way, Vancouver has been in a pretty good spot in terms of building its team. And even in the prospect side of things, they've got some names that I think we're all paying attention to as they get older and more developed. No, I'm not referring to the already staple guys on the team, the Bessers, the Petterssons, the Hugheses, but I'm talking about the Arshdeep Baineses of the world, the Aatu Ratus, the Jonathan the Karamakis and the Villanders. All these guys are interesting and they could make an impact with the Vancouver Canucks soon. However, there's one dude in that same age range of Vancouver Canucks young guys that was a very ambitious pick when the Canucks selected him in the 2021 second round. And you gotta remember, this was 2021. This was the last draft season for Jim Benning. Patrik Allvin and Rutherford did not come in until later that same year after the 2021 draft came and went. This is one of Benning's last pickups, and we're talking about him today. We're heading over to the 41st overall pick from Vancouver in 2021, Danila Klimovich, and asking whether or not he's looking to being a bust. Now, Lego, how could you? How dare you? This guy is only 21 years old. How are you going out there and talking about a 21-year-old second-round guy as a bust? Danila Klimovich, if you needed the scoop here, was a really ambitious pick from Vancouver for a few reasons. Firstly, you can already see from the profile here, he's a Belarusian player, and in his draft-eligible year in 2021, he was playing out of the Belarusian Second League. This is a very under-scouted and under-progressed league to be played in. And to be fair, he was very good in the league, scoring 52 points in 37 games played. He also had 14 points in 12 games in the playoffs and had 6 goals in 5 games for Team Belarus at the U18s. He was a very under-the-radar kind of guy because if you take a look at the draft projections, he was ranked to go 53rd by Elite Prospects, 66th by Future Considerations, 60th by McKeen's, and 64th by Bob McKenzie, and he ended up going 41st overall. Now, normally, a jump from around the 60s to 40 wouldn't be too big of a deal, especially it's like, hey, it's the second round of the NHL Draft, right? A lot of the good guys are already taken. But the problem becomes when you acknowledge some of the other guys that were still on the board. Now, before we dive into that, let's just revisit what Danila Klimovich did in that U18 tournament. He was one of the top goal scorers in the tournament. Only Mishkov, Wright, Connor Bedard, Isaac Rosen, and Samu Salminen had more goals than Klimovich at the tournament, and most of these guys did it in more games played. So, for Klimovich, there was reason to go out there and pay attention to him. He had these flashy skills, and he had a goal-scoring touch. But ever since he was taken 41st overall, it was always a question mark, because one of the things Canucks fans would consistently bring up was, hey, Logan Stankoven was right there. Not to mention Aatu Ratu, who was inevitably taken a little bit after. If you wanted to get even crazier, hey, Matthew Nyes was taken shortly after Danila Klimovich, so was Janis Moser. These guys have played significant NHL minutes and are looking to be really good. Meanwhile, you had a WHL stud in Logan Stankoven playing in Kamloops, a big fan favorite here in BC. A lot of Canucks fans were hoping for this guy's name to be called by Vancouver, but instead they took Klimovich. Now, I'm being a little bit harsh on purpose here. It's kind of to set up the narrative. I do remember seeing some scouts and writers saying, hey, props to Vancouver for taking Danila Klimovich 41st overall. That's a really big swing. But if it works out, it works out. This is a guy with some really good goal-scoring potential and offensive capabilities, so even though it might not be the consensus pick, it's certainly one with a high ceiling, and thus one that I think the Canucks are willing to take. As the years progress, though, Danila Klimovich has had a really rough go in his development. He had 18 points in 62 games played in his first Abbotsford Canucks year. Okay, that's fine, he's 18, he's coming over from the Belarusian leagues, and he's playing in the AHL. It's not really easy to adjust right away. In his second year, 22-23, he actually had a significant improvement. 29 points and 17 goals in 67 games. Not bad. He had 0 points in 6 games in the playoffs, though, which was a point of concern. And then the year after that, Danila Klimovich declined significantly, only scoring 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in 24 games played. He had more issues, he wasn't healthy, and there were a few games when he was healthy where he was getting healthy scratched. It was a very rough go for Danila Klimovich. And now you're seeing posts made like this on the Canucks subreddit from Famous Mushroom 4213 asking, is Danila Klimovich in bust territory yet? It's a hard thing to accept given what Benning and co passed up to take on him, of course, referring to Logan Stankoven, but he's looked totally washed in this training camp. In fact, there was a video posted of Danila Klimovich on offense and defense on one-on-ones, and this clip, it's like one of the only clips of Danila Klimovich going out there and doing something, but it's a pretty bad clip. He ends up missing the puck, and he kind of gives up on the play a little bit after, and just kind of waits his turn for the next rotation there. One of the replies in this Twitter video says, hey, he's not very good. And I wanted to refer your attention to some of the comments sent out about Klimovich from Canucks fans. This is what Displaced Nova Scotia went out there and said, no, Danila Klimovich is not in bust territory yet, and not because I think he'll be good, necessarily. Because he was drafted in the second round. Most players taken in the second in 2021 haven't played a game yet. Players drafted there are very hit or miss. That said, it's not wild that he could become an NHL player. He's only 21, but we have to calibrate our expectations. Another reply goes out there and says at the time of the draft he was considered raw and a huge developmental project that could yield massive dividends if successful. You don't give up on him anytime soon. Players picked 41st overall who don't make it aren't busts, very few second-rounders make the league, and fewer stay in the league. Yeah, I hate the term bust when it's used for anyone outside the top 10 to 15. Podkolzin was a bust. Juolevi was a bust. If Lekaramaki doesn't make the NHL, he would be a borderline bust. But guys like Wu or Klimovich not becoming NHLers is expected in par for the course. You hope they do, but it's like flipping a coin. And I think a lot of these sentiments are true. We always like to bring it up here that, hey, the odds of making the NHL after being a first-round pick are decent at best. Of course, you expect higher results out of the top 10 guys, and most top 10 to top 15 guys actually do become NHLers full-time. But guys taken 25, 27, 29 overall, sometimes these guys don't even make the league full-time ever. Second-rounders are even more rare. So, for Klimovich, it's tough to toss that bust label around at this stage in his career, although it is noteworthy that he has been developing at a pretty staggered and improper rate. From having good development and extended production to declining and looking pretty bad in training camp and warm-ups, this is where you start to debate whether or not the Vancouver Canucks actually have themselves a project that is worth investing more into here. Of course, Klimovich will be an Abby Canuck and he'll play games and he'll hopefully get more points, but you really hope that the point production comes soon. You really hope that the consistency holds itself up and he's able to continuously put together good results, good play, and is able to make the right decisions on the ice, because sometimes he just completely mishandles it and he ends up making a bad read as a result to try to compensate for it. And you know, he's a young, raw guy who is raised mostly in the Belarusian hockey systems. Not to talk trash about Belarus, but it's a very unorthodox development path. So he's going to have to go through even more hurdles to adjust and eventually become familiar with the NHL style and inevitably, hopefully, translating those skills against NHL competition. So, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Danila Klimovich and the way he has developed thus far. We've made videos about him ever since he was drafted and how he was raw, boomer bust kind of pick from the 2021 draft. It just stings now because you think about it like, hey, who is the easy guy to take in that spot? Either Aatu Räty, who was supposed to be first overall in 2021 for a time, or Logan Stankoven, who now is one of the more underrated Dallas Stars players and a guy who could very well win the Calder next season and continuously put up good results at the NHL level. Just because that guy's small, he ended up dropping so much in the draft, and Benning and co may have just made a better choice if they went with the easy pick and took the guy in their backyard just up the Coquihalla Highway who ended up scoring so many points in the WHL. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Klimovich, whom the Canucks should have taken instead, and everything else in between. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.